Echoes Hugh. Audio Productions. Smooth, sweet sounds. Echoes Hugh Audio Productions proudly presents a J.S. Mensah audio work.
Welcome to the Sporting Field of Play podcast show. This is the History Edition with me, George Soper. Before we get started, a quick reminder to subscribe to Echoes Hugh Audio Productions by following us on social media for more updates and exclusive content. And if you enjoy this show, then please give us a like and write us a review. Hello sports fans and podcast show fans. Welcome to another episode of our pod where we delve into the rich history of the world's various sports and analyse some of the greatest players and participants. Greetings to you. In today's episode, we'll be diving into the fascinating history of tennis, a sport that has evolved from medieval origins into one of the most popular and prestigious games in the world. We will explore how tennis developed, its key milestones, and how it became the global sport we know today. Let's get started. Tennis traces its roots back to a 12th century French game called jeu de paume, meaning game of the palm. Originally, players struck a ball with their hands, and it was mostly played indoors. This handball game became quite popular amongst French nobility. Over time, players began using gloves and eventually wooden paddles, leading to the development of early rackets in the 16th century. By the 1500s, the game had evolved into real tennis, or royal tennis, and was played across Europe, particularly by aristocrats. King Henry VIII of England was a well-known fan of real tennis, even building courts at his palace. This version of tennis was still played indoors on a walled court, very different from what we see today. The tennis we recognise today, commonly called lawn tennis, emerged in the late 19th century. A British Army officer, Major Walter Clopton Wingfield, is often credited with inventing the modern version of the game in 1873. He created a portable version of the game that could be played outdoors on grass. This lawn tennis became an instant hit among the British upper class who loved playing the game in their country gardens. Wingfield's version was a mix of real tennis and another sport called rackets. It was played on an hourglass-shaped court, but over time, the rectangular court we know today becomes standard. Lawn tennis spread quickly beyond the United Kingdom thanks to its popularity and appeal to a wide range of people. One of the most significant milestones in tennis history came in 1877, when the first Wimbledon Championship was held in London. Wimbledon is now the oldest and arguably the most prestigious tennis tournament in the world. It was organised by the All England Croquet and Lawn Tennis Club, and the first tournament was a men's singles event, which was won by Spencer Gore. Women were not allowed to compete until 1884, when Wimbledon introduced a women's singles event. Around the same time, other tournaments began popping up, including the US National Championships, now known as the US Open, in 1881, and the French Open in 1891. By the early 1900s, tennis had established itself as a global sport, with championships being held in multiple countries. Fred Perry is a name synonymous with tennis greatness, and for good reason. Born in 1909 in Stockport, England, Perry's journey to tennis stardom was anything but typical. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Perry came from a working class background, which set him apart in a sport that was largely dominated by the upper class. Perry first made a name for himself in table tennis, winning the World Table Tennis Championships in 1929. However, it was on the tennis court where he would truly leave his mark. Perry's rise in tennis was rapid. By 1933, he had won his first Grand Slam at the US Open. This victory marked the beginning of a phenomenal run in the mid-1930s. From 1934 to 1936, Perry won 3 consecutive Wimbledon titles, becoming the first player in history to achieve a career Grand Slam, winning all 4 major titles: the Australian Open, the French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open. His athleticism, powerful forehand and aggressive style of play made him a formidable opponent and a fan favourite. But Perry's impact extended beyond his on-court achievements. He was a charismatic figure who broke through the class barriers in tennis, representing a shift in the sport's cultural landscape. Perry's legacy isn't just in the titles he won, it's in the persona he brought to the game. He was a pioneer, a champion, who became the embodiment of British tennis excellence. After his playing career, Perry remained in the public eye, notably through the Fred Perry clothing brand, which began with his collaboration on an innovative sweatband and later expanded to iconic polo shirts. Even today, the brand carries his name, ensuring that Fred Perry's influence on both tennis and fashion endures. Despite his success, Perry's relationship with the British tennis establishment was complex. He was seen as somewhat of an outsider due to his working class roots and his decision to turn professional in 1936, a move that ended his amateur career but secured his financial future. Perry's legacy is deeply embedded in the history of British tennis. It wasn't until Andy Murray's Wimbledon victory in 2013, 77 years after Perry's last win, that Britain finally found another men's singles champion. This long gap only underscored the significance of Perry's achievements and his enduring status as a British sports icon. Fred Perry's story is a reminder of how one person can transcend their sport, leaving a legacy that lasts far beyond their playing days. His journey from a working class background to becoming one of the greatest tennis players of all time is a testament to talent, determination, and a bit of rebellious spirit. For many years, tennis was mostly an amateur sport. Players were not allowed to earn money from their participation, which kept professional players out of major tournaments. This all changed in 1968 when the Open era began. The term Open refers to the fact that both amateur and professional players could now compete in the same tournaments, which elevated the level of play and increased the popularity of the sport. The Open era saw the rise of legendary players like Rod Laver, who won 2 calendar year Grand Slams, all 4 major tournaments in one year, and Billie Jean King, who was instrumental in advancing women's tennis and gender equality in the sport. By the 1970s and 1980s, tennis had exploded into a global phenomenon. Players like Bjorn Borg, John McEnroe and Martina Navratilova became household names, their rivalries captivating millions of fans worldwide. The introduction of colour television also played a role in the growing popularity of tennis, as the sport's bright colours and dynamic movement were perfectly suited to the medium. During the 1990s, players like Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf dominated the scene, each contributing to tennis's status as a truly international sport. Tennis also began to diversify geographically, with players from countries outside of the traditional powerhouses such as the US, UK and Australia rising to prominence. In the 21st century, tennis has continued to evolve, with modern rackets and training techniques making the game faster and more physically demanding. The big three of men's tennis, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic, have dominated the sport, setting new records and pushing each other to greater heights. On the women's side, Serena Williams has become one of the greatest players in history, with 23 Grand Slam singles titles, a feat unmatched in the Open era. Tennis has also embraced technological advancements, with innovations like Hawkeye, a computerized system that helps officiate close calls, ensuring more accurate and fair decisions. Moreover, tennis has grown more inclusive, with efforts to promote equal prize money for men and women at major tournaments, something that began in earnest with Billie Jean King's advocacy and continues today. Today, tennis is played and watched by millions around the world. From its humble beginnings as a medieval handball game to its status as a multi-billion-dollar sport, tennis has come a long way. It's a game that has not only provided entertainment but also contributed to social change, especially in terms of gender equality and global representation. Whether you're a casual fan or a die-hard tennis enthusiast, I hope this journey through the ages gave you a better appreciation of the sport. Until next time, keep serving up those aces. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for joining me on this History Edition journey. Tune in next week on Tuesday for the next episode. Until then, keep competing, guys. Yours, Georgie Boy.
Thanks for listening to an Echoes Hue audio productions project. Smooth, sweet sounds. Don't forget to subscribe to Echoes Hue Audio Productions by following us on social media for more updates and exclusive content. And if you enjoy the show, then please give us a like and write us a review. The Sport and Field of Play History Edition is written and presented by George Soper. The podcast is directed and produced by J.S. Mensah. Our theme music is by Vitaly Vakulenko.